This is our second Directors Roundtable, and basically it is just a more detailed update on where we are as a city in our different departments. And we just started this past council meeting, and it will evolve into hopefully just important updates that citizens will want to know about, since there's oftentimes not enough time to go through it during work session and during council meetings. So I will let everyone take it away.
Chief Pettis with the Fairhope Police Department. Just want to report that our Arts and Craft Festival went well. We had a little rain on Friday, but Saturday was a beautiful day. And now we're getting ready for our sunrise service at the Fairhope Pier Sunday morning. It's usually a big crowd that comes out, and we usually come down, and I usually go out and help the officers on Sunday morning, so when we can get people in and out. They usually have coffee, donuts, and orange juice, and they take up a small donation just to help out. And so we're looking forward to that. And then Friday will be First Friday, April the 6th. And with beautiful weather, Friday's supposed to be a good day, no rain, and Saturday's supposed to be no rain. I think 10% Sunday from what I looked at 10-day forecast. And so we're really excited about the upcoming events in Fairhope. The officers have been busy. We had a wreck yesterday that was not in our jurisdiction, but we had to help out state troopers with it. Other than that, everything's well with the police department.
Well, Mayor, we've, again, our second Chief Arts and Crafts Festival from a public works standpoint went very, very well. Very proud of our men that made sure that they met all the needs of not only the vendors, but the citizens and visitors alike that participated, and you know, got out on Friday as well as on Saturday, and just everything looked good, and I heard good news. I think vendors, many of them said they had a very, very, very good festival, and you know, for us, this is the end of festival season. You know, we do a lot of supplemental support of Christmas activities and then Mardi Gras, and now to get arts and crafts behind, there's kind of a collective sigh in public works, and we don't have that heavy of a support requirement with the repertory that will be in the park as well as the 4th of July, but those are a little bit off. Probably a seminal event for us in Public Works is we actually have a hard date when FEMA and the Alabama Emergency Management Agency is coming to review all of our projects that we did in relationship to Hurricane Nate, which seems like it happened a very, very long time ago, I think October 7th. But they will be here Wednesday, and hopefully we will kind of button that up and be done, and then it'll just be up to the treasurer and all those to collect the money. So we're working on that. Sherry Lee and I have been involved in two opportunities. One is the Transportation Alternative Program that comes through Federal Highway, and ALDOT has opened up a supplemental grant for due in May, and it can be used for sidewalks and parks, for ADA compliance and things of that nature. And first area we're focusing on is working with Tom and the Manley Road Soccer Complex to put internal trail systems or sidewalk systems there that will be ADA compliant and give access to the fields and eventual bleacher pads and things of that nature. And our goal on these two is to get at least a information packet to the council in April 9th meeting with a request for a resolution as well, because both of them will require, or the two grants we're working on will require a resolution of support. The other is the Highway Safety Improvement Project. Kind of mentioned it. That's for a roundabout at North Section Street at City 104, Scenic, and Veterans. And the beauty about the safety improvement funds is that's a 90% grant, meaning that we only have to carry 10% of that, and that 90% covers design, survey, all the way through. Volkert, if you may or may not recall, actually designed the original concept roundabout there back in 2006. They have nicely updated the budget numbers. We're somewhere around about $1.1 million, so the expectation cost to the city is somewhere between, let's say, 110, 120,000, but for $1 million, that's a pretty good investment and return on that investment. One of the things that you will be seeing, the state is doing some intersection improvements on Greeno Road, US 98. One of them is at Parker Road, which is where the public shopping center is. There's some construction going on there. They're going to be introducing the offset left turn lanes like we have at Fairhope Avenue. And they will be replacing and upgrading the mast arm poles, which the traffic signals sit on. And one of the options we do have at Fairhope Avenue, we chose to have them painted green as opposed to galvanized. And so they're going to get us what the upcharge to do that. Also, Joe Woshina is working on the cost of the backlit street signs that go on them too, which really make them impressive. And with that said, Bayshore Academy, which is a little further down the road, is doing some expansion of their campus, and one of the requirements there is a signal at that intersection, which is, what is that road, Chief, that goes up to the church and the private school there before Rock Creek?
South Drive.
South Drive. And again, they're paying the full freight of the signals with the state, but if we want to do those in green, we'd have to pay that upcharge to do that. And I'll have that information hopefully shortly, and we'll get it for you and the council. And you know, I think it's worth doing to kind of have that consistency and that look throughout our highway system. And then the other big thing that trying to get out the door is the council budgeted for resurfacing dollars. And we're getting a paving package out for, looks like we're going to be able to at least knock out 10 of our road projects on our list. And hopefully get that out, doing all the engineering in-house, all the plan preparation in-house, and hope to have that back in and be letting that sometime in May, getting the council to approve that. So those are kind of the key items we've been working on and will be working on.
Couple questions. The roundabout, that is already funded, correct?
That is absolutely assured.
So that's good.
We are, what we're doing is preparing the highway safety improvement application, and the hardest or the most difficult part of that is all the traffic crash data that we have to put in and then answer all the data that comes from that, because basically it is based upon a cost versus benefit analysis. And this is one of those good news, bad news. The bad news is there's been a lot of severe accidents there. The good news, because there has been severe accidents, it qualifies for this funding. Okay. So, and the other step in that application is having that resolution of support from the council. So we'll be getting that moving forward, and hopefully either April 9th or no later than, what would that be, the April 23rd meeting. So,
okay. The timing of the lights, do we have any idea where we are on that? Or you might not know, but we can talk about it next time.
On the adaptive ITS on the 98 corridor,
that thing.
What I understand is all of the hardware is now in place, okay. and I've kind of been watching them, and they're still adding little controllers up on the poles and things of that nature. As I understand now, it has not gone live, but they are gathering data and kind of building the algorithms that will help the system learn and adapt as it goes forward. And I will get an update for you exactly, okay, if they know a day that the system is actually out there and semi in control of the traffic flow on 98. But it is coming along.
How do they work, Richard? Can you explain a little more about how those signals work? It's up and down 98, right?
Yes. Basically, from from Spanish Fort to our southernmost signal on US 98 in Fairhope, every one of those signals now are connected by a fiber backbone. And that fiber backbone actually terminates in the control station there above the tunnel on I-10 over on the Mobile River. And every signal now, and if you'll notice, you'll see little white boxes that they're kind of nondescript that are sitting up on the poles. Those are sonars. They have put pucks in the pavement, which collect data. It knows when cars go over it and speeds those cars and things of that nature, as well as they still have the camera units. Cameras are actually can count cars in a queue and things of that nature. And all that data is collected at that intersection and is being shared to the computer that's controlling all this. And basically, the system will adapt based upon loading, meaning that, for example, it's a great Friday night and the game is over here at Fairhope High School or at Fairhope Stadium and everybody's leaving. It's within one cycle that lights, they've detected that new loading of traffic, and they're changing the signals to move that traffic along the main line, which means is it may, during heavy loading, it may give preferential treatment to the north and southbound and making the east and west connectors wait a little longer to get that traffic moving. And both down in Gulf Shores as well as on 280 heading into Birmingham, the significant improvements in the flow of traffic is phenomenal with these systems.
Very
so
exciting.
It's exciting. It takes a while to calibrate, but you know, I would think that by the end of the calendar year, it is running on its own and it's doing its thing out there.
So would that be why, coming home from the symphony Saturday night, I made it from I-10 to Rock Creek with not a single red light?
Could very well be, because I know because it's no longer dumb, meaning if there's no car approaching or waiting, it's not going to give the signal until it sees something coming. So it is
phenomenal.
it's smart. It's going to favor whichever approach has the need, as opposed to just a fixed timing or a simple detector type unit. So
Okay.
Wow.
That's great. Thank you.
thank you.
The Recreation Department. The biggest thing that's happened recently with everything else that's going on is, you know, we had Special Olympics Friday down in the stadium. Every school in Baldwin County is represented there, and it's one of our biggest days. It's something we look forward to all the time, and thankfully we've had good weather, but you know, they've got a rain date and everything planned out for that, but didn't need it again this year. So, but I think there was over 540 some participants in everything, all the different sports that are part of Special Olympics, and the Optimist Club showed up again this year. They've been doing it for years, and they cook for everybody there. There's fish dinners and hot dog dinners, which I was telling the mayor about it. I have conversations with those gentlemen, and the average age of the people cooking and serving the meals is 73 years old, and I think the oldest person they have is 86 years old, and he was running the fryer all day making all that fish. So, but it is amazing, and you know, the schools like coming to Fairhope because it's centrally located, and we roll out the red carpet for them, and they really take care of the place. It's just near spotless when they leave. The volunteers and the teachers that we work with do an excellent job with that. It's just something we look forward to every year. And then we also hosted a soccer tournament this weekend. It wasn't a very big one. I believe they had 12 teams, but it was the St. Michael's Catholic School tournament. And it's the first time that they've done something like that, and they got their feet wet in it, and we enjoyed it, and they enjoyed it, and it worked out good for everybody. And then the golf course, you know, had the opportunity to be out there a few times this week and actually play the course on Thursday, and it's everything's looking real good. I think anyone else that was there can attest to that too. You know, the greens are in good shape, and you know, it's kind of a funny time of year with grass right now because of the warm temperatures. The ryegrass is wanting to go away, and the Bermuda's trying to kick in. But you know, overall, it's in great shape out there, and real happy about that. And then Sherry Lee asked me to touch on that. You know, she's been working real hard on getting us some bleachers out there at the new soccer complex. I think she's applying for a grant with that, but also use some of the impact fee money to help pay for that. And that's why, you know, Richard and I have to sit down and come up with a master plan before we come up with these sidewalks to make everything ADA compliant, so we're not having to build those and come back, tear something up because the bleacher pads are going to be here or there. So, and so we'll take care of that, get started on that. And then the marina, you know, every time I go down there, there's small changes, but you know, things are coming along down there, and it's kind of a wait and see what this study from the folks from Mississippi are going to bring back to us. So we're not doing anything but kind of repairs right now and keeping up with that. There again, we don't want to go out and do a major repair or build something, and then when the study comes back, you know, we don't want to have to be tearing things up and doing them twice. So
When do we expect that test to be back, or do you know?
Do you know
We can
that?
find out for next time.
We have an initial plan, and I don't, which is strictly preliminary, and, I mean, we haven't even met to go over it officially, so I'm not sure what else we've got that they're going to come back with.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
While you're on the marina, can I just throw in, we got a very nice thank you note from one of our, not liveaboards, but long-term slip holders, thanking Drew for all the work that he's been doing down there, and most especially for straightening out that hangout area, where he cleaned it up, added more lights, and just made the, because that's where they have dinner and everything else, and they just feel so much more at home, and really are loving what's happening. He's brought a lot of lights in, which is, I think, starting to cut down on some of the late night activity we've had down there.
Nice. Thank you.
Very good. Wayne Dice from the Planning Department. Week before last, we had our community engagement meeting with the development community and also the public. We discussed several topics. The first one was the GIS map viewer. We had our consultant come in and do a demonstration on how it works, and well, that went very well. It was recorded on video, so we have that. So if anybody's interested in learning how that works, the map viewer that's online on the city's website, I'd encourage you to look at that. Sean Southern from KCS and went through that in very great detail on how to use that. We also discussed compatibility analysis. Buford King gave a little discussion about how that works, what it is, what data we look at. Also, we had a discussion about sidewalks and bonding of development, which I thought we had some good input from everyone on that. And then we also had a discussion with construction standards, which really applies more to Richard Johnson's outfit when it comes to sidewalks and construction standards. But then also we had a discussion about utilities. I think we had about 30 people there. Well, I think we had a pretty good dialogue, good discussion, had some good input. We had a follow-up meeting and discussed what we heard there and are planning on preparing some revisions to the ordinance to try to address some of the concerns that we heard and some of the ideas that we brought forward at that meeting. So I thought it went really, really well. So we do have a planning commission meeting coming up this coming Monday. We have a pretty big agenda, so that'll be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
I know you are. I could tell.
We've been busy trying to get a couple of things accomplished. The county's working to replace the bridge on County Road 9 at Polecat Creek. And to accomplish that task, we've got to relocate a water main, which is in the documents for that project, and a contractor's doing that work for us. But we've come to realize that when we have to abandon the old line and tie in the new line, that the way it's set up, we'll wind up with a lot of customers, everybody south of 32 and Polecat Creek will be out of service for pretty much most of the day. And so what we've tried to do is come up with an alternative where we can insert two valves, one on each side of the creek, and be able to abandon that line without affecting service. So we'll eventually have the new line tied in and then flowing before we get to that other one. And one other thing that we thought about this morning, actually Curtis Cooper talked about, we'd be sacrificing fire protection availability during that time frame while that service is out too. So hopefully we'll be able to get that approved. We're asking that it be walked on the agenda because the contractor really wants to get all that done pretty quickly to keep the project on schedule. So we're going to be asking for that tonight. Also looking, and I don't know if it's gotten any movement yet, but I've mentioned it a couple of times, and that's a geological evaluation of about 80 acres that's south of the runway at the airport. And that evaluation will be to look at the loading capability of that particular part of the property we own there for loading of an effluent of a decentralized wastewater system. I've talked to some of the utilities in West Mobile, and our geologist for the water system is familiar with how those systems are permitted and has done those types of evaluations on some of those systems on the west side of Mobile. And potentially we could have a system out there that would support up to 1,500 residential units, which would be a different type of process. It would be something where those units built on 32, and I would say generally between 181 and the airport and then south of 32, those would be units that could be built and not have to depend on our wastewater transmission system that runs from 32 over to Section and all the way to the plant in town. So we think that's a possibility to look at maybe future opportunities for that same type of system in other places when we start working our way outside of the city, and of course save some of our transmission requirements and discharges into the bay, where we'll be able to do that on a more localized type system. But we would like to get that evaluation done to determine where we are, and then from that determination we can see how much we'd be talking about in terms of infrastructure costs to support those units, and have a business model basically to support that type of system for wastewater treatment. Friday, I was not at the supervisors meeting. We had picked a window when the weather was clear and a light east wind. We had had reports that there was an upwelling in Mobile Bay that was very close to the proximity of our outfall line, and there was a concern that maybe the outfall line had a breach in it. And so we contacted ADEM, we contacted the Coast Guard, we contacted the concerned citizens that brought this to our attention, and Mobile Baykeeper. And so at 9 o'clock Friday, and we should have gone 30 minutes earlier because the wind did start to pick up just a little bit before we got everything underway, but we did inject dye at the plant at the outfall location. And and I had never really participated in a dye study, but if you want to look at the picture, this is the picture of the location that there was a concern for. And it turns out that you really didn't have to be in a canoe sitting right over the breach in the outfall line, because you could see it almost from the beach if you really looked. And there was a pier not too far away that we had some other citizens that had, out of curiosity, wanted to see how that was going to play out.
We meant to do that on St. Patrick's Day, but
it would be,
It's a day late.
yeah,
It's a day late.
in hindsight, it's always 20/20, but we are proud that we have discovered that now, and I've gotten in touch with a diving company. I'm waiting to get more information, but hopefully we'll be able to get an evaluation of exactly, what the breach consists of, whether it's a longitudinal breach in the line or whether it's a circumferential. Is that the proper term? Or it either goes long ways or around it. And then there's also some anchor blocks that hold that pipe down and in place, that we're not sure if maybe that has participated in the problem or not. And if it has, then how we fix it may be a little bit more problematic. But we're going to get somebody who's in the business of fixing pipelines underwater to give us an evaluation of what the possibilities are, and then maybe we can get a project put together pretty quick. So we're going to try to do that. And we received Friday RFQs on the sewer improvement projects that we looked at the last council meeting, and we're hopefully going to be able to evaluate those and come up with projects. And the purpose of that was to be able to look at firms that consulting firms that have capabilities, and some of them will be for, survey and design work on force main systems. Some of them will be work, experience in lift station upgrades and those kinds of things. So we want to try to partner different groups. We don't want to focus on just one firm. We'd like to share that, with other groups that have done work here in the past and some that maybe have not. But the object will be to get individual projects assigned to different consulting firms, so we can kind of move concurrently with all of what we're trying to do with these upgrades. And it's going to be fun, and it's going to be a time-consuming effort, I think, to try to harness all that activity into projects, because most of these projects, as Richard knows, will wind up affecting public works in terms of streets and drainage, and we'll be looking at those conditions and trying to look at the other utilities that are in there as well, just with the thinking that if we're going to go into a street, whether it may be Church Street or whether it may be Fairhope Avenue, that we want to go into it once, we want to go into it and get everything done we feel like is necessary to have it completed at one time where the disruption will be minimal and one time only. So that's our goal with that.
Should we ask this vast audience if they have any questions, or does anybody have anything else they want to add?
Yeah, I do want to update, so that maybe we can get it on tape, and those that are watching. As you know, horticulture is under the Department of Public Works, and we have Paul Merchant who serves in that role. He's got about 28 years of experience with the city. A while back, we had a request from actually 2 different citizens who lived on Fairhope Avenue about when we were going to prune the crepe myrtles. And I had a conversation with Paul, and he said, it's been quite a while, and went out and looked at them. And crepe myrtles, by definition, are a tree, but they're a unique tree in the sense as they will act like a shrub as well, meaning that they actually take very well to heavy pruning. The layout and location, especially on the section of Fairhope Avenue between downtown and Greeno Road, we have a very small planting strip between the back of curb and the sidewalk. Many of the crepe myrtles had gotten quite shaggy. They were in the way of the pedestrians that were walking. Trucks were hitting them as they were thing. And I approved Paul, because he said, it's been a while since we've done a heavy pruning. I said, well, if it's due, let's do it. And just so you know, there is actually a term for heavy pruning of a crepe myrtle. It's called pollarding, okay? And many people prefer it that way, because what it does, it causes the trunk to get big, but it keeps the actual canopy kind of controllable. And we did that. And I know that you have gotten some comments on social media about that. This is something that for these locations and for these non-native trees, it's going to have to be done in locations, especially where there's sidewalks and there's traffic right there. You got to trim them back. And they've all resprouted. They will actually fill that the canopy of that tree back up before June gets here, and actually you'll end up getting some nicer flowering in the years to come because you force that new growth. I think this is one of those cases where we made some citizens happy,
Right.
and we made an equal number unhappy. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but ultimately, folks have got to be able to use the sidewalks, and folks need to be able to drive down the road without hitting limbs and things of that nature. And it's one of those decisions you have to make. It's a maintenance issue, and there's a safety issue. But at the end of the day, there was no harm caused to the trees. You can cut a crepe myrtle off at the ground and it'll grow back. They're very, very forgiving of anything you do to it. But I do want to reassure you, this is something that's not going to be an annual thing, but
Right.
probably every 6, 7, 8 years it has to be done because of where we chose to plant these trees in those tight confines. We've got to manage their growth. So I just
Totally
wanted
makes sense.
to update you there, we didn't murder any trees. They just got a good haircut.
Chief, you had something else?
Yeah, just on to what Richard was talking about. It probably helped the trees more than it hurt it, I can tell you that, because like you say, they're going to grow back and they'll look much nicer. But I was glad that Richard had brought up about the roundabout, because I was asked just this morning from one of the citizens, they say that they heard about possibly a roundabout about the clock. And I told them, I said, yeah, it was discussed at the last meeting, and I think this is something the city is moving forward with. And we did talk about the safety issues when I talked with the gentleman this morning. And so I know that if he's listening, he's glad to hear your report.
Very good.
And I think the Christmas tree lighting contractor is back in town removing the lights from the trees, and I think there's going to be a few samples that we're going to take for different style lights that we may look at for the next month or so. And Mayor, if you've gotten any more information on that you want to share.
I don't really have any more information, but we did ask for some specific bulbs and ideas to use for next year that we can leave up for more than 1 year. This will be just, they're sealed and they have a warranty, and they would also be maintained throughout the year, and it's just an effort to save in the labor. So we're going to have, I don't know how many trees, but they're all samples that we'll be testing out throughout the rest of the year to see how we like them.
And I'll try to find out and report on that next
Yeah.
roundtable.
Great. I want to mention that the State of the City address, we're doing a video this year, and it will be highlights from each department. We're going to show it at the Nick Center on April 26th, which is a Saturday, but mainly the video is going to be out there online, email, and on social media, hopefully to get a wider reach to citizens, to let them know really the great news of where we stand right now. We've been able to accomplish so much in the last year and a half. Also, I have sent a letter to Fairhope Single Tax Corporation. I'm on the agenda for April 11th to request that the parcel of land for the Tatumville development either be donated to the city, or if they would consider doing a restrictive covenant so that no development would ever happen in that area again. And I'm getting ready to post more of those details. So hopefully we can get that resolved as well. So thank y'all. And the next, the work session for council starts at 4:30. So we appreciate people tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.